There is a cruel paradox in Western culture. The harder you try to perform flawlessly at a networking event, the more your nervous system registers the people around you as cold-blooded predators. The music is deafening. The room is packed with people holding drinks and exchanging bright smiles. You stand right in the middle of it. A glass is in your hand. Your mouth forms a polite grin. But inside your chest, a silent alarm is ringing. The small talk feels like heavy lifting. You are physically here. You nod at the right times. You laugh at the right jokes. Yet you feel completely out of sync with the rhythm of the crowd. You take a quiet step backward. You drift toward the shadows. You slip out the side door without saying a single word to anyone. The cold night air hits your face. For a brief second, you breathe freely. Then you get into your car. The engine starts. The silence of the drive home is immediately crushed by a heavy wave of guilt. Your mind begins to replay the evening. You wonder what they will think of your sudden disappearance. You feel rude. You feel broken. You look at your reflection in the rearview mirror and see a profound failure. You are convinced you are defective. You ask yourself why you cannot just be normal like everyone else in that room. You think this exhaustion is a character flaw. You believe you are fundamentally flawed. But what if this immense exhaustion is not a sign of weakness at all? Social etiquette labels your quiet escape as incredibly rude. The modern world insists that networking requires you to stay until the very end. They tell you that polite people always find the host to say a proper goodbye. You are bombarded with cheap pop psychology advice instructing you to simply fake it till you make it. This is perhaps the cruelest faith born entirely from extrovert privilege. But your sudden departure was not an insult to anyone in that room. It is a strict matter of biology. Why do those loud confidence tips only leave you feeling far more exhausted? The answer does not lie in your personality traits. You have been conditioned to believe that forcing yourself to be socially perfect will eventually cure your awkwardness. So you try to push through the immense discomfort, you force a bright smile, you memorize acceptable small talk responses, you actively suppress your need for quiet. However, this forced performance aggressively drains your delicate neural energy reserves. Every polite nod requires a massive cognitive effort. Society quickly slaps a distorted label on you. They call you a shy introvert. They call you socially inept. They are wrong. You are not a broken extrovert. You simply operate on a fundamentally different neurological framework. The expectation to perform endlessly is a toxic demand. It forces you to ignore the urgent warnings of your own body. If your quiet exit was not a failure of manners, then what exactly is happening inside that complex machine? Your brain is not defective. It simply does not turn off. When you finally sit in the quiet of your dark room, you desperately hope the exhaustion will bring peace. You want to sleep. Instead, an entirely new psychological nightmare begins. Your brain aggressively boots up its default mode network. This is the complex neurological system responsible for your internal monologue, deep self-reflection, and continuous social evaluation. In a truly calm state, this neural network is a beautiful tool for human creativity and daydreaming. But right now, in the aftermath of your sudden exit, it is completely hijacked by fear. It rapidly transforms into a ruthless, highly efficient machine. It forces you to aggressively replay every single tiny mistake you made tonight. It endlessly analyzes the briefest, most insignificant shift in a stranger's gaze. It violently scrutinizes the exact tone of your own voice during that one awkward conversation by the bar. It binds you to a chair and forces you to watch a relentless, high-definition movie of your perceived social failures. It systematically gathers biological evidence to firmly condemn your character. You lie wide awake in bed, staring blankly at the ceiling, wondering why a simple corporate networking event feels remarkably similar to a devastating physical trauma. This vicious, agonizing cycle of overthinking is absolutely not a conscious personal choice. It is a highly demanding cognitive process running completely outside of your rational control. Your primitive brain is frantically trying to solve a survival puzzle. It urgently needs to know if you are still safe after abruptly fleeing the social tribe. Neuroscience tells us that the human brain treats the threat of social rejection as a literal impending death sentence. So it endlessly scans your fresh memories for any hidden sign of mortal danger. It is trying to prepare you for the worst possible outcome. But if your powerful brain is simply trying to protect you from social death, what exact mechanism triggered this intense, overwhelming biological alarm in the first place? What actually triggers this intense physical reaction? To understand this, we must step out of psychology and look through the brilliant clinical lens of the polyvagal theory, developed by Dr. Stephen Porges. Your pounding heart, your sweaty palms, and your shallow breath were never signs of social cowardice. They were the spectacular manifestations of a biological system working exactly as designed. deep within your brainstem lies a silent, deeply ancient surveillance mechanism known as neuroception. This primitive radar does not think. It does not use logic or reason. It continuously scans your environment, far beneath your conscious awareness, to answer one fundamental question. Am I safe? In a loud, crowded room full of strangers demanding endless small talk, your neuroception becomes utterly overwhelmed by the sheer volume of sensory input. The overlapping voices, the forced smiles, the bright lights, and the intense eye contact are no longer interpreted as friendly networking opportunities. Instead, your nervous system registers this massive influx of unpredictable social stimuli as a profound, immediate physiological threat. It realizes that you are absolutely not in a calm, socially engaged ventral vagal state. So it instantly pulls the lever and triggers a massive false alarm. It aggressively shifts your entire body into a primitive fight or flight sympathetic response. The blood abruptly rushes from your digestive sieve to your limbs. Your pupils dilate to scan for predators. Your heart rate violently accelerates to prepare you for a physical battle. Your nervous system does not care about saving face or making a good impression. It only cares about keeping you alive. But you are standing there, wearing a suit, holding a delicate cocktail, and trying to politely discuss quarterly corporate earnings. Your body is desperately preparing to sprint away from a wild tiger, while Western society demands that you stand still and politely exchange business cards. This colossal disconnect between primal biological survival and modern social expectation is exactly what makes you feel like you are literally suffocating in plain sight. You did not sneak out of that room because you are rude, ungrateful, or socially broken. You left because your autonomic nervous system made a non-negotiable executive decision to immediately extract you from a perceived war zone. Your sudden quiet exit was not a failure of character. It was an emergency evacuation protocol. Your body was desperately trying to save your life. But why would human evolution preserve such a highly sensitive, seemingly overreactive alarm system in the modern corporate world? But what if this hyperactive alarm system is not a mistake? What if it is exactly why your ancestors survived? Evolutionary psychology tells a vastly different, magnificent story about your profound social anxiety. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, the ancient world was a brutally dangerous and unpredictable place. In the primal tribe, the oblivious extroverts who boldly walked into the tall grass were often the first to be eaten by silent predators. But there were others. There were quiet, highly sensitive individuals who constantly scanned the dark tree line. They noticed the slightest, most insignificant shift in the wind. They perfectly read the subtle, hidden micro-expressions on the faces of rival tribesmen. They were the ones who stayed awake while the rest of the camp slept. They were the ones who kept humanity alive. Your immense social exhaustion is absolutely not a modern psychiatric disease. It is a profound evolutionary heritage. You directly inherited the nervous system of humanity's greatest lookouts. Your intense hypersensitivity is not a tragic flaw that needs to be cured. It is a brilliant, deeply sophisticated survival tool. You're fundamentally wired to process complex environmental data at a much deeper, far more intense level than the average person. You intuitively feel the heavy, chaotic energy of a crowded networking event, because your ancient brain is trying to brilliantly map every potential outcome. You are simply applying the magnificent, life-saving instincts of the Sentinel to a modern corporate cocktail party. When you finally realize this undeniable biological truth, the heavy burden of shame begins to dissolve completely. Your quiet escape was never an act of social cowardice. It was an ancient biological mechanism doing exactly what it was beautifully designed to do. You do not have a broken, defective brain. You possess an extraordinary superpower that is simply operating in the wrong historical era. But if you cannot erase your profound genetic inheritance, how can you effectively turn off this overwhelming internal alarm right now? To stop this brutal cognitive loop, you must completely abandon your logical mind. You cannot use anxious thoughts to fix an anxious brain. The moment you catch yourself spiraling into the dark, relentless abyss of overthinking, stop trying to aggressively argue with your own nervous system. Instead, gently shift your entire focus downward. We are going to practice somatic regulation right here, right now. Close your eyes, feel the heavy, solid weight of your body pressing firmly against the mattress. Notice the quiet, empty, and utterly peaceful space surrounding you in your room. Take a slow, deliberate breath. Let it fill your chest, and intentionally let your tense shoulders drop completely. You are no longer running from a wild predator. This simple, quiet act is the profound clinical art of grounding. You are entirely bypassing the panicked, hijacked default mode network. You are sending a direct, undeniable biological signal straight down to your primitive brainstem. You are explicitly telling your physical body that the immediate threat has completely vanished. By consciously and tenderly slowing your physical rhythm, you effectively turn off the alarm from the bottom up. You are not just resting, you are actively performing deep internal co-regulation with your own biology. You are successfully guiding your exhausted nervous system back to a deeply calm, beautifully secure ventral vagal state. Right in this quiet moment, away from the loud, demanding crowd, you are entirely safe. But when you finally calm your body, how do you permanently release the crushing cultural pressure to be perfectly sociable? The ultimate consequence of understanding your nervous system is a profound shift in your personal narrative. When you recognize that your biology is brilliantly protecting you, the harsh cultural script of the modern extrovert suddenly loses its power. You have spent your entire life trying to fix an awkwardness that was never actually broken. Western society constantly demands relentless networking and endless small talk. It forcefully conditions you to build a perfect, impenetrable social mask. It measures your ultimate worth by how loudly you can dominate a conversation. But you do not owe the loud crowd your total, devastating exhaustion. You do not need to fix yourself. You simply need to stop playing the exhausting role of someone else. True, lasting liberation begins with a radical ACCE penance. It is an active, deeply existential choice to embrace your beautiful, inherently imperfect social self. Your quietness is absolutely not a tragic symptom of failure. It is the very foundation of your authentic, deeply sensitive identity. You are allowed to be awkward. You are allowed to leave the party early. You are allowed to fiercely protect your delicate energy. Surrender the exhausting, relentless need to prove your social worth in a crowded room. You must purposefully shift your focus from the endless pressure of performing to the quiet, unshakable dignity of simply being. Let go of the heavy, suffocating guilt. This profound release is the truest form of inner freewan. But what exactly happens when you finally stop fighting your own magnificent nature? The next time you find yourself standing in the middle of a loud, demanding room, do not panic. The music might still be deafening. The crowd might still be completely overwhelming. The pressure to perform might still linger in the air, but this time, everything is profoundly different. You will not try to force a fake, exhausted smile. You will simply take a deep, quiet breath and gently smile at your own nervous system. You finally understand its ancient, beautiful wisdom. This profound understanding of your inner world is the purest form of personal transformation. It is your ultimate awakening. The immense suffering of your social anxiety only exists when you blindly fight your own magnificent nature. It is the resistance that breaks you, not the biology. When you finally stop resisting, the exhausting internal war inevitably reaches its peaceful cessation. You no longer need to endure the crushing noise. You do not need to explain your departure. You can politely step backward into the shadows. You can step into the cool, liberating night air. Try to close your eyes right now just for one brief moment and quietly thank your deeply brilliant biology for its relentless protection. You are never broken. You are entirely whole. You are always safe.